Okay, for topic three, we're going to talk about rates. So we already know that just generically speaking, a ratio is a comparison of any two quantities. However, when those quantities are not the same, we have something that's called a rate. Okay, so a rate is a special type of ratio where the comparison for two quantities, where we're comparing two quantities, but those quantities have different units. Okay, so it's still a comparison of two quantities, but the units on the two quantities are different. So in the previous examples, we were comparing two quantities that were the same. So dog treats versus dog treats, dollars versus dollars, minutes versus minutes. Here, the two units are not going to be the same. Okay. Now we approach them exactly the same way. So we would write these in fraction form and we would want to simplify these. Okay. But we need to make sure that the units stay in the final answer. So since we're comparing two different types of units in our quantities, we need to make sure we label each quantity with the correct unit. So with rates, you have to be really, really careful and make sure you keep those units in your final answer. Okay. So for example 3, it says write each rate as a simplified rate. Make sure to include units with the answer. That's really important. If the units are not the same, they need to stay in the answer so we know which quantity goes with which unit. Okay? So for part A, we have that we're comparing basically $1,680 with 8 weeks. So we would start just like we do with regular old ratios, $1,680 in a numerator and 8 weeks in a denominator. And then we want to see if we can simplify these. So I see right off the bat, these are both even. Okay, so we could start by dividing these by 2. Okay, so if we were to divide each of these by 2, I would get, well, $1,680. Let's see if we can split that into 2. And I promise I'll start letting you use calculators more so I can show you how to do this on a calculator, but I want you to understand the basics first, okay? So if we were to divide this by 2, 2 will not go into 1, but it will go into 16 8 times. 8 times 2 is 16. We drop down the next digit, which is an 8. 2 will go into 8 4 times. We drop down the next digit, which is a 0, and you have to be careful. As soon as you drop something down, you must put something in your quotient. So 2 will go into 0 0 times, and we get our 0 remainder. So we get 840, and then for 8 weeks divided by 2, that's just 4 weeks. Well, doggone it, we're not simplified yet. They're both still even. So we can divide by 2 again. Let me move my side work here. I'm not going to have room for all my side work. 840 is not as bad. I think a lot of us can see like 840 divided by 2, but just in case you can't, let's do the side work again. So 2 will go into 8 4 times. 4 times 2 is 8. We drop down the 4. 2 will go into 4 twice. And then again, once you drop something down, you must put something in your quotient. So 2 will go into 0 0 times. We get our 0 remainder. So we get $420 compared to 2 weeks. Well, they're both still even, so we can divide by 2 one more time. And when we divide both of these by 2, we get that 420 divided by 2. Hopefully this one you can see 420 divided by 2 is $210. And then 2 divided by 2 is 1 week. So if this was like money, say that you had earned, let's say you earned $1,680 in 8 weeks, we could ask, well, how much did you earn in a single week? We would say $210. Okay, next up we have 236 miles compared to 12 gallons of gas, and I'm just going to use gallons as my unit here. Okay, we can divide. We see that these are both even, so if you want to start dividing by 2, you could do that. So we could divide by 2, divide by 2. The bottom is easy. We get 6 gallons. The numerator, 236. If you need to divide by hand, you could. So we divide by 2. 2 goes into 2 once. We drop down a 3, 2 goes into 3 once. We drop down, or we subtract the 2 and then drop down the 6. And 2 into 6 is 8. So we get 118 miles on 6 gallons of gas. We're still not fully reduced. Okay, so let's see. They're both even again, so we can divide by 2. So we get 3 gallons. That one's easy. Let's erase our side work. If you can't do 118 divided by 2 in your head, that's okay. Do the side work. And then you're going to be really mad when I show you how to do this on the calculator. So 2 will not go into 1, but it will go into 11 5 times. So let's see, 5 times 2 is 10. We subtract We get a 1, we drop down the 8. 2 into 18 is 9. 59, or 9 times 2 is 18. We get our 0. So we get 59 miles, 59 miles for 3 gallons of gas. And 3 does not go into 59 evenly, so we would say we're done. Now, I do want to show you how to do this on your calculator, okay? So it's important that you understand how to do the basic stuff by hand, okay? You need to be able to do some basic fraction simplifying. But let's go to the calculator. You still have to show us setups. You still have to show us essentially what you tell your calculator to do. You can't just give us naked numbers. A number by itself means nothing. We need to know at least the process you told your calculator to do. So we had 1,680 and we wanted to divide it by 8. So let me first preface this with this. If you have this calculator, you've got a couple of ways you can input a fraction. You don't necessarily have to have this calculator for this class. If you have another type of calculator, you may need to talk to your instructor about how to type in a fraction, okay? So this is a graphing calculator. It's not necessarily required for this class, but I could type in 1,680 and then I could just divide it by 8, because remember we had for part A, we had $1,680 for 8 weeks. And you could see right here, we get 210. Now you have to be careful because when you're dealing with a ratio or a rate, you have to write it as a comparison of two quantities. So we would have to remember this is the same thing as 210 over 1, okay? Now for the second one, we had, I honestly don't remember, it was, let me go back to the worksheet. I don't remember what we had for our second problem. It was 236 miles to 12 gallons of gas. So we could do 236 divided by 12, and we get this decimal, okay? And so if you have this kind of calculator, there's a way to turn a decimal into a fraction. So there's this math button. It's underneath the two colorful buttons. So you hit math. And then the first option that pops up is this like frac option. So that's basically saying it's going to turn your answer into a fraction. Hit enter, and there we get our 59 over 3. Okay, so I don't have access to other virtual calculators, so I'm generally going to use this one in this class. That does not mean you have to buy this one. It's the one that I have to help with our work. Okay. Ask your instructor for assistance with the calculators you all have. Now, remember, we got 210 by itself. Just remember it's 210 over 1, and it's very specifically $210 in 1 week. And then we got 59 over 3 for part B, but remember it's 59 miles compared to 3 gallons, okay? Don't forget you have to have your units with your final answer.